evening. Continuing our packed programme. We're very pleased that we've got Ed Bishop, who's driven all the way down from Leicester.
Yes, just outside Leicester, 203 miles.
So we're very pleased that you've driven 203 miles to be. So I'm thinking you're rehearsing now for a new play.
Yes, I'm rehearsing for a production of Arthur Miller's play The Price, which will be done at the Haymarket Theatre in Leicester, opening November the 20th. Early booking is advised. Ray Fairclough, those of you who watch Coronation Street, is also in the cast. It's a very small cast, 24 people. One of Arthur Miller's better plays. Arthur Miller is enjoying somewhat of a revival here in the United Kingdom, which you may have been aware of. He had the premiere of his last play, The Ride Down Mount Morgan, was recently had his world premiere in London. He likes having his plays done over there.
Well, certainly being on stage must be very different from, I suppose, the two roles that everybody will remember you for after Command of Right Wing UFO, and of course the voice of Captain Blue.
Voice of Captain Blue.
Which more, do people look at the face and recognise the names, or do you get more of a problem of, I know that voice? Because, I mean, I also read you've done so many voiceovers, and you've been used by so many advertisers that they need sounding person.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Yeah, I suppose it breaks down to 50-50, and you get some really bizarre experiences. I was actually in Berwick Street Market in Soho in London once, and I was talking to this guy who was selling fish, and I was saying, well, you know, is this fish fresh, you know, this sort of thing. And I felt the guy go by me, and I felt him come back to me, and he says, you're Ed Bishop, aren't you? And I said, yeah. He said, I recognize your voice from radio plays, because I do a lot of radio plays. And I said, in the middle of this market, you know, all the noise and confusion this guy picks out, that writing ought to be something. And another time I had a slight operation done on my eye, and I had a black patch, and I had a hat on, and a trench coat with the collar up. And I stopped for some gas at a gas station, and I went in, and I was signing the access thing, you know. And the guy behind the counter says, "You're Ed Bishop, aren't you?" I said, "Jesus, you got the prize." Spot that, you know. But it's amazing. I'm amazed that some people like the series here, which we just hands up those who saw it, because I won't talk about it. I really feel exhausted after all that. I mean, I did all of that running around. It's amazing that was the last episode that we did, and I would say that my recall is almost total. It's amazing. After 20 years, I can remember the conversations that we had before different shots and where we broke for lunch. It's amazing. I had trouble finding this hotel. I can remember 20 years ago. And the last shot in the entire series was me jumping off that balcony into that mattress, really was disguised as cardboard box. That was the last shot of the series. And I had done a lot of the stunts myself, all that running around. It was not bad.
Of two Cherry Anderson productions, which one do you think you have more affections for? Obviously, more people recognise you from UFO. But I mean, to a certain extent, I get the feeling a lot of actors, when they do work for the same sort of company, tend to go back to the earlier roles. Was there any sort of feeling at all as being the voice of Captain Blue, or was it really just?
No, I think I moved on from that. I mean, we did the feature film Doppelganger with Jerry, and yeah, I suppose that I have the greatest amount of affection for old hard-ass Straker. He was much maligned guy, but he had his heart in the right place. There was a couple of shots there, if you notice, with I forgot that element. You know, we fought that intentionally, that there wouldn't be any romance between that delicious Wanda Bentham. It was really strained credulity to think that this guy would not be on a first name basis. It was colonel and commander and all that. There's a couple of looks there. She said, I said to her, "Are you all right?" She says, "Yes." A little
There's
tense.
something there. So,
Fond memories.
how much of Striker was of your sort of input? Was it all on paper, or did you turn and say, that's rubbish, that's not him at all, this is what he's really like?
No, I would say that 85% of it was created by the writers and Jerry and Reg when they sat down and made out the format. They said this head character would be this kind of guy, sort of thing, and George Sewell had another characterization too. Incidentally, can I just interrupt myself here and say that I'm a sort of magpie. I never throw anything away, and this I found is actually one of the suits I wore in the series. Now, I'm going to award a prize. I don't know what the prize will be, but if anybody can remember the episode it was worn. I mean, I look a little bit like Alexei Sale, I know. This was actually worn in the episode, an episode, one of the 26, so...
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Find the prize. I've just had the comment passed me that it's for once Century 21 Fashion's got something right.
Yeah, that was a confetti check. This was the suit that old Straker wore on his honeymoon sequence. And still fits, kind of, you know.
I want to go back, like I said, to the very first with Captain Blue. Is it hard to be the voice of a puppet? I mean, it seems to me, after all the money that's spent on puppetry and on miniature sets and all that, was it very much where you were just the finishing touch, or do you feel that Captain Blue is as much you as a piece of plastic and fiberglass and strings or whatever?
Well, no. What they did with that, and I'm looking forward to hearing from Cherry about this later, but what they told us was that they recorded the voices first. So if anybody by accident did something brilliant, and there was a little inflection in the voice which might indicate a reaction that the puppet could give, like an eyebrow would go up or a cheek would twitch or some such thing like that, they would take that off the voice track. So we were the first ones, whereas as I believe the previous ones, they had the puppets done first and then the voices. I may be wrong about that, but certainly they did the voices with Captain Scarlet first and then brought them to the labs and then worked from that. So from that point of view, we were the original. We had the first shot at it after the writer, Tony Barber, or whoever who wrote the scripts. But we took it very much as it was an adventure series, and we got together 2 days a month, and we did 4 episodes a day, 2 in the morning.
So you all together, it wasn't like you'd come and do your lines?
Oh, no. And the wonderful thing about that, to reflect the sheer professionalism of Century 21, Jerry and all that crap, is that everybody was on the same salary, which may seem like an unimportant fact, but it did create, when you get on a motion picture, there is that element about who's getting how much and who's, that. So all of that was eliminated. Everybody was on the same money. And if they had one character in an episode who just had to say, okay, I'll lock up after you're gone, just one character, they would bring an actor in. They wouldn't ask, hey, Eddie, could you double the voice or treble the voice or do something like that, Mickey Mouse, They were very, very professional. I was very impressed about all that, by the standard that they maintained. But we did get into some very bizarre discussions toward the end of the run. We'd start to have little arguments between ourselves, the actors. So, well, I wouldn't say something like that. We'd say, hey, wait a minute, this is already talking about puppets here, guys. Excited. But we were concerned about our characterizations, and we did We did enjoy it. It was a very high standard of professionalism. Francis Matthews and Cy Grant, Charles Gray, who's no longer with us, Charlie Tingle, who's back in Australia now, myself, we were the regulars.
So, the voice, if you say the lines are 85% sort of on text, and you've got that little bit. Is there anything else about Captain Who you say that was your hallmark?
Well, yes, I think there is a certain incisiveness about my delivery, if you like. There is a kind of, I was joking to somebody when we were talking, somewhere, very recently, and I said, yes, I usually play the parts where people come up and handed me reports. And I would read the report and make some comment or observation. Yes, there is maybe perhaps some kind of authoritarian, kind of official captain of an airline, corporate presence there, which may have
So you say it's kind of like, was it that they felt you were the image of, or do you feel that to a certain extent the image is now stuck with you and you come across now as, and you say, the captain or the man that beats the news?
That's right. I would say that was a very happy meld. I never forget, I went up to see about an audition or something, and the guy said, well, we're casting it, this is the part of an American sergeant. I said, I'm sorry, I don't play sergeants. Needless to say, I didn't get the job. I think actors fall into that sort of category. It just comes with the territory.
Did the stories make any sort of sense to you? I mean, not so much the Captain Scarlet one, it's a pretty standard serial action adventure, but some of the episodes of UFO were surreal, to say the least. Was it, well, you know, to a certain extent, it's the paycheck, or did you sort of think, well, what am I doing? What is this? Or was it very much sort of read the lines deliver?
Well, no, it wasn't certainly just get on with the lines, but once you're into a science fiction format and you can then explore, you have a far greater sense of freedom. Here's a notice.
The buildings on fire.
Keep the report
Same thing, isn't it?
Okay.
It was an entry for the competition.
Actually says, no, you'll pay the bar bill.
No, I get back to that. I think that's a very good question, but I think the series was, I think, you know, it was very linear in nature, although it was a science fiction one. I would not say that, I would not agree with you that they were surreal, quite frankly. Some of the ends might not have spliced together quite surreal, but well, once you're into a science fiction format, you can, anything is possible. The audience is prepared to go on whatever journey you want to take them, as long as you don't violate certain basic premises, they'll go with you.
I mean, would you ever go up to the writer and say, well, why is this happening? Or how does this work?
Oh yes, yeah. We would ask clarification on certain points if it wasn't absolutely clear.
Because I think the best example of that one I got, not from yours, but recently with Star Trek Next Generation, and Patrick Stewart playing Captain went up to one of the technical people and said, "How does the warp drive work?" And they said, and they tried to explain it, and they turned around the end and said, "Well, look, it can't possibly work because it doesn't exist." He says, "Well, it does. It must work." He said, it's so simple. This is what I mean. He said, I just say, make it so. It works. Did you tend to think, oh, well, it's over my head, but it must make some sense?
No, I would think that gentleman probably has a minor problem with reality.
Dixie.
Don't quote me on that.
Too late.
You did those series like in the late 60s into the 70s. Why have you stayed in Britain so long? Is it The money's good, or
Well, that's partly the reason, yes. I think that perhaps I made a mistake about this, but I think that an actor should stay where he's employed and where he's known. And I came here as a student, and I started to work here as a professional actor, and I met my wife, married, 4 children. I never felt the need to go anywhere else. I mean, I've always been Touchwood constantly employed, and it's been a very varied and interesting career, and I've made a pretty good living at it. And perhaps if I had gone to Hollywood or someplace else, I mean, but that's all water over the dam now. I don't analyze that. I just live for today. And I've got this play to do in Leicester, and then something else will come up. Yeah.
Has there ever been a time since UFO that you've ever sort of regretted that you thought, oh no, here's yet another script for an Ed Striker clone or Captain Scarlet clone?
Scarlet.
I'll break my teeth if you want.
Yeah, right.
No, I would not say I ever had any regrets along those lines.
A lot of comics series, especially science fiction series from the 60s and 70s, are enjoying success now. Thunderbirds is back on television. Star Trek's come back as Star Trek Next Generation. Would you, if you were offered a chance, sort of return to, you know, a Captain Scarlet the movie, or UFO the Next Generation?
Or Son of Straker.
Son of Straker.
Which one?
Well, when do we start? Yes, absolutely, of course. I've lobbed this out on several occasions. Sure, I would be delighted, absolutely delighted, if somebody come up with a script like, you know, this film Dark Star. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Some nice little budget. Type of
Makes millions. Yeah, take 10%.
They get Ed Straker for free. Yeah, absolutely. I'd be very interested. Yeah, absolutely.
What about since UFO to present day, it's long on, you pop up in so many series. It seems to be, you know, is there a packet of Ed Bishop just out of water, instant American? I mean, you've appeared on commercials. You've appeared on Jasper Carrot's Confidential recently.
Motormouth.
Motormouth.
Ooh.
Big name. I mean,
Top of the Pops, yes. I was on Top of the Pops. Yes.
Doing what?
There was a group by the name of Landscape.
Oh my God, Einstein and Go-Go.
And they recorded this record called Norman Bates. And they shot it out in Hollywood and made the film made the record in America. And it was a long talk speech of a guy, just a guy talking. He was supposed to be the psychiatrist. Then they got on Top of the Pops, and the group was there, and they wanted a guy to play, so they got Dial Bishop. And, so I was there as a psychiatrist talking to the camera. Did Norman really kill the girl at the Bates Motel? Well, yes and no. To answer that, we have to go back to a time. And in the background they're saying, his name is Norman. Yeah, I've done everything.
I know recently, Dave Stewart from Rumix got together with Tony Dolphin and produced Lily Was Here. I'm not sure if it's on the album. I know they released on the CD a variation of one of the tracks, Lily Was Here. Again, features your voice. I mean, was this something, how did that come about? Was that just, again, dial voice or?
No, it's something that I think had been pre-recorded, and they simply just bought that.
So did you have any full knowledge that they intended to use this, or was it just?
Yeah, they obviously came through and made some contractual arrangements. So, oh yeah.
But it wasn't specific to the song. It was something they found and thought we can use this.
No. As far as I recall what you're talking about, but I think that was just pre-recorded from another show that they used in this new. But I think that's what an actor has to do. I mean, you must be ubiquitous. I did try for many years to get rid of my American accent, but I'm very tone deaf, and I can't get through Happy Birthday without a lot of help. I have no musical ear at all, not for accents at all. So, and then when voiceovers started in America, here in England, in '76, and I got in on the ground floor with that, then it became very lucrative. So I take my accent out every week and water it, and give it some biofeed. But I have a very bad ear for accents. I really can't read.
Can I ask the audience if they've got any questions for me?
You supplied the voice, again, sort of voiceover for an episode of the animated Star Trek.
Yes.
How did that come about? Were you in the States?
Yes, I went out to California in '72, '73, did a couple of pictures out there, and I actually thought about relocating there. The series was being syndicated at that time. But my 4 children were very young, and I thought the thought of transplanting them to North Hollywood is maybe would have been very advantageous. So, yeah, I was out there, and that was the job I did. And I flew back, and then they wanted me to come back and make some more. Pity, because it was a very good paid job.
Karen, I've got that for you.
How much fun was doing What's Apocalypse?
Fun, oh yeah, great fun. Yeah. The series you're talking about, yeah. Because I was very briefly in the feature film, but no, the series was great fun because there were a lot of very good people there, and the writers were terrific. The only thing wrong with the series, I think that there were about 5 series trying to get out of that one series. Just, if that's possible, but excuse me, extraordinary that events in the Middle East, were so similar. And I saw Humphrey Barclay. I was doing a play up in the Hampstead Theater, and he came to see it. And I said, "Well, see, Humphrey, the events during the Gulf War have caught up with this fictionalized series that we made."
Anybody else? Yeah. No, right. I'm going to have more money. Oh, yes, there is one.
In the series of UFO, did it make you wonder yourself whether there are ufologists coming down out from the stars? I mean, it's one thing sort of acting out the science fiction character that there are space aliens coming in, but did it actually make you wonder about yourself whether there are aliens out there?
Well, of course I did. Yeah, I did wonder. But I must be candid and say that as far as I myself personally am concerned, I don't believe that there are. But yes, it obviously did trigger off the imagination. Working that closely with anything would indeed make you feel that. But I think that if there are anybody trying to make contact, they would have made contact. I don't see any logic behind them traveling X trillion miles and then just hovering around and disappearing as soon as people take a camera out. There would be some absolute contact. I mean, they're constantly, people at NASA are constantly trying to make contact. They're sending out these sealed capsules full of this, that, and the other, and, trying to make contact. If anybody had the intelligence to get a craft within our Earth solar system, would certainly say, "Hey, what are you doing down there?"
I suppose it's an interesting thought that with all our TV signals being beamed out of space, one day a UFO's going to land in Britain and say, "Take me to command and strike." Don't shoot, we come for an autograph.
If that sounds right, then I'll do the cricket.
In UFO, you looked rather different. Was that a production decision, or did you turn up to the interview with bleached blonde hair and they said, "We'll keep it"?
Well, no. All of the visual aspect of that series and Captain Scarlet and the feature film Doppelganger. Pardon?
You did a very good job on the one.
How did you do a very good job as a puppet?
All of the visual presentation was down to Sylvia Anderson. She had the design concept, the clothes, and she was in charge of the casting, and all of those beautiful girls that you saw in the control room were all handpicked by Sylvia for Bounce, and well, and Bounce, in the sense that Aisha was, you know, a very dark-haired girl, and they had a couple of blondes around, which made it visually interesting. And of course, the visual concept of Straker was down to Sylvia as well. And originally, they cut and dyed my hair. That those of you who cut and dye your hair, hands up, don't own mine. Know that every 10 days the roots grow out. You've got to have the back, and this was before the days of equality and unisex. And I had to go up to London to this beauty salon with a bunch of women. My magazine, trying to pretend I wasn't there, but so then I said, look, yeah. And so they finally broke down and got me a wig, which was what we used for most of the series.
The aborted series of UFO that eventually, shall I start again? The aborted series of UFO that eventually became Space 1999, which I heard you speak before, you were very close to doing. Did you actually ever see any scripts written for that series?
Well, no, I was in Los Angeles at that time, and Jerry and Sylvia wrote to me and said that they were going to make more episodes of UFO. And then at the last minute, the CBS network backed out and didn't pick up their option. And I heard this, that those scripts that they had written were then transposed and made into 1999, but I have no factual knowledge to back that up.
Just wondered.
No. I've never seen a script of that projected series or anything at all.
Right. One last question.
What do your children think of you as Straker? Do they have any strong opinions of your series?
Well, it was a good question, because when it was on in London, they kamikaze distributors, whoever decided to put it out, they put it out opposite Doctor Who, which had been running for 40 years or something. And when UFO was shown on Saturday afternoons, I mean, my living room was, all the kids in the block would come down to see it. It was like 15, 20 kids. Yeah, but the kids, my children, they just accepted the fact somehow or other that so-and-so's father was a lawyer, he drove a truck, and his father was a cab driver, and I happened to be an actor. They didn't ever get excited about it and think it was anything great. But we did have a lot of fun, though.